Masechet Kiddushin, Daf Mem, and with this daf we should complete the first perek of Masechet Kiddushin. The Mishnah was talking about if one does a mitzvah, one gets reward, and we are on a theme of reward and punishment for mitzvot and for averot. We saw the important opinion of Rabbi Yaakov, who said that there is no reward for mitzvot in this physical world, but rather spiritual reward in the world to come. Okay, so now we're going to elaborate more on this theme. Rame Rav Tuvi bar Rav Kisna le Rava. So Rav Tuvi bar Kisna is going to bring up two opposing, seemingly contradictory sources and ask Rava about this. Tenan, and our Mishnah says, Kol ha'aseh mitzvah chad metivin lo, asa'in lo asa la. Anyone who does one commandment gets good. That means if he does the commandment, then it's good. If he doesn't do it, then he won't get that good. What do you mean? Here's the contradiction. If someone sits passively and does not commit a sin, then he gets a reward as if he did a mitzvah. So this is contradictory because from the first half it sounds like if you don't do anything, then you get no reward, right? Only if you do actively do a good deed, you get a reward. If you're passive, then you don't get a reward. But the second half sounds like if you're passive and just don't do a sin, you didn't murder anyone today, okay, then you get reward. So which is it? The second one is talking about a case where an opportunity to sin comes to a person and he's saved from it. So it doesn't mean that you get a reward for every minute that you didn't kill someone or rob a bank, right? Chazaku Baruch, you didn't kill someone in the last minute. No, that's not a reward. We're talking about when someone solicits you to sin and you have a desire for it and you hold back and you don't do it, then yes, then that is worthy of reward. So either doing something positive, actively doing a mitzvah, or restraining oneself in a situation where a sin is presented to that person. For example, the following stories. Rabbi Chanina bar Papi, Rabbi Chanina bar Papi, he was sitting around one day and a certain Roman noblewoman comes and solicits him. Now, see, it's hard to just say no, even if his even if his desire doesn't care about this, but it's politically dangerous to say no to a matronita. This is not just talking about a regular street woman. You can say, no, get out of here. It's because she's an important Roman noblewoman, and she is like a Yosef and Eshet Potifar kind of thing, right? If you say no to a woman like that, she can get you arrested. She'll get him in trouble. So the rabbi is in a difficult spot here. I mean, he'd like to say no, obviously, but how's he going to get out of this without getting himself arrested? So he set a special magic formula, and he filled his body with boils and scabs so that he would be disgusting. So initially, she's attracted to him. He was a handsome rabbi, and so he makes a miracle, and so he'll be unattractive. Okay, hopefully she'll go away, but not so fast. Abdahi milita v'itase. She also was a purveyor of secret formulas, and she said she did a miracle or magic also, and she made him better. So now he's handsome again, and she says, "Come and sleep with me." Arak tasha bahu be'bani techi havu ailin betren afilu bimama havu mitazeke. And the rabbi was not afraid of danger. He was not going to sin. He stood by his principle, and he ran and hid himself in a bathhouse, a dangerous bathhouse that even two people during the day would be harmed if they went into it. And so it could have been like a ruin. So bathhouses are dangerous as diseases. Also, if it's abandoned ruin, that's a dangerous place. You shouldn't put yourself in a dangerous place. This place was so dangerous. Most places are dangerous at night, but not during the day. Also, most places are dangerous if you go there alone, but not if you're with someone else. Even till today, you don't go at night alone to a dangerous place. But if it's in the daytime, you're with someone, okay, then it's not so dangerous. Anyway, this place was so dangerous that even in the daytime, with two people still anyone who went there would be harmed. He went there because he'd rather suffer the possible harm in this dangerous bathhouse than sin with this Roman woman. And the next day he came, he was totally fine, he was protected, and he told the rabbis heard the story. They said, wow, who protected you? Two soldiers, right, two, at least what appeared like Roman soldiers, saved me or guarded me all night. So they only knew that he slept in this bathhouse and nothing happened to him. So they were wondering, wow, how did this great miracle happen to you? Must be you had merit. Was there some kind of adva that was presented to you and you were saved from it? All right, the Tanena had the rabbis know that to connect these two things. Because Baraita says anyone who has forbidden relations presented to him and he saves himself from it, says he is saved, right? I mean, like if he overcomes his own basic desire and he does not sin, he deserves a miracle to happen for him. And what kind of miracle? Gibore koach, oseh debaro lishma bekol debaro, kigon Rabbi Sadok v'chaverav. Gibore koach, soldiers, right? Mighty ones who will protect him from any harm if he obeys God's command and does what God says, so then he's deserving of protection. So that's example number one of someone, what we said here, if someone has a sin presented to him and it's a very difficult situation and he's able to overcome and get out of it and doesn't sin, so he deserves a reward, in this case reward of being saved from danger. And then it says this is also like Rabbi Sadok and his friends. Well, what's that story? Rabbi Sadok tebateha hi matronita. Rabbi Sadok also, I guess he was handsome, and this Roman noblewoman went and she said, come and be with me. Amar la halashli libai velamasina. Now he makes excuses and he says, oh, I'm very weak. I can't get up the strength to even to be with you. I'm so weak. Ikamidi lemechal. Is there anything I can eat? Right? Maybe I can get my strength back. She said, well, there is some food here, but it's not kosher. There's some pig, right? And you eat that. He said, all right, what's the difference? Once I'm sinning with you, I may as well eat the pig. So, okay, prepare it for me. Someone who does the sin would eat such a food anyway. So she prepares it. Shagar tanura. She goes and lights the oven for him. To cook the pig, so he will eat it. Kaman hale. And now surprisingly, the storm had a big oven. He goes and climbs inside the oven while it's hot. Right? He's willing to burn himself rather than sin with her and eat the pig. So he goes and climbs in the oven. Salik v'yiteb begaveh. Amra le maihai. So she's kind of surprised. Right, she made the oven. She lit the oven to make the pig in it, not for him to go in it. So she's like, "What are you doing? Why are you climbing inside the oven? You're going to kill yourself." Amar David ha nafil beha. And so now a play on words of what he said before. Anyone who sins with this will end up sinning with that. Now he says anyone who will fall into this, meaning does this sin, will fall into the fire of the oven, representing the fire of Gehinnom. Right? In other words, if I would sin and eat the pig and sin with you, then I would be deserving of a terrible punishment, and I'm not willing to go through with it. So you see, Rabbi Sadok also, rather than sin with her and thereby avoid any danger to himself, he says, consequences come what may, I don't care. You can have me arrested, you can have me killed for disobeying, like Eshet Potiphar did to Yosef, right? And you could do whatever you want to me, I'm not going to sin. So he stood strong by his principles. And she was so impressed. She said, if I knew that this was so grievous to you, I would not have caused you such anguish. Right? Because she felt bad. She thought she's just having her way because she's a Roman noblewoman and that's what she's used to. Everybody listens to what she says. But you see, when the rabbi sticks to his principles, no matter what, then that overcomes even her insanity. And she says, you know what? If it's, wow, this is so, you take this so seriously. Okay, I apologize. I would not have solicited you and caused you anguish in the first place. Okay, amazing story. Rav Kahana hava kamezaben di koleh. Now, Rav Kahana, he was poor and he had to sell baskets. Who buys baskets? A woman is in the street, in the marketplace, selling baskets to women. That was his trade. You don't make too much money from that, but that's what his job was. As he's sitting there, a certain Roman noblewoman comes and says, "Come, and I want you to be with me." He said, "Hold on, wait here. I want to go get freshen up so I can be with you. I'm going to go adorn myself." He can't say no right there and then, because then she'll have him arrested and all that. So he says, "Okay, give me a minute." He goes up to the roof and he jumped off the roof. He'd rather die than commit such a sin. The commentators discuss this. What kind of sin is this? Is it yareg v'al ya'avor? I mean, this is not technically adayot, because it's not a prohibited relation like a relative or adultery. It's just with a non-Jewish woman. It's prohibited, but is it worthy of this? So they have to explain that we're talking about a case of rabbi where it also be chilul Hashem, and so on and so forth. So the rabbis took this seriously. Okay, luckily for him, he jumped off the roof, and before he fell down, Eliyahu Navi rushed in like Superman and caught him. Eliyahu Navi said, "You caused me such trouble. I had to travel 400 parseh to save you. I had to rush all the way over. I'm busy." Eliyahu was doing a lot of things. He's at a brit milah. He had to run out early before he could eat any breakfast. I had to run all the way here just to save you. What'd you do that for? Why'd you jump off the roof? So the rabbi says, "Well, what caused me to be in such a situation in the first place, that I have to be here out in the marketplace selling baskets to women? It's because I am poor and I have no other job." And so now that's what forces me to do this lowly job where I'm put into a precarious situation. So Eliyahu gave him a basket full of dinar. So now you don't have to be a basket case anymore. A basket salesman anymore, and do this degrading job and be in a tough situation. And so now you can go live with more dignity and without this kind of test. So there you go. 3 stories of someone who wasn't looking for trouble. They were just sitting doing nothing, doing their job. And the sin came to them, and in a situation where they could not easily get out of it, and yet they said, "No, we're not going to sin no matter what." And so, in each of the 3 cases, they were rewarded. So now another set of Tanaitic sources that seem to contradict each other. And this time Rava is asking about this to Rav Nachman. On the one hand, we have Mishnah in Pe'ah 1:1 that says these are the following things that a person can reap the benefit of their interest in this world, and the principal remains in storage in the savings account for the next world, right? So one gets reward both the next world and this world without diminishing from the principle, right? Just from the interest, one benefits from this in this world, and they are honoring parents and doing good deeds and making peace between someone and someone else, and learning Torah. Learning Torah is equal to all of them put together. Now, what's the sources for each of these? Regarding parents, it says, so you have long life. I know, even though yesterday Rabbi Yaakov understood this to mean long life in the world to come and good things in the world to come, but here we're reading it as both. Long life in this world, and you also get olam haba. So we're reading it this way so that it fits with, because that's what that's the proof to the Mishnah that one gets double reward here and there. Yimsa Hayim Tzedakah Vechabod. Someone who does good deeds, someone who runs after tzedakah and chesed will find chayim, right? So that's life and prosperity and honor. So all good things, even in this world, one will have good things, and certainly in the next world. Making peace between people. That's a Pasuka says, seek peace and run after, pursue it. You see someone fighting, go and say, listen, the person he wants to apologize. You want to apologize. He brings them together. So he seeks peace. Over here it says, seek peace. And the previous pasuk that we just quoted regarding doing good deeds also said, rodef tzedakah. So rodef, it says in both places. We learned that just like for Gimel Chasadim in general, there's reward in this world also. So too, bringing peace, there's reward in this world. But Talmud Torah Ketib Ki hu chayecha v'orich yamecha, regarding learning Torah, says this is your life, the length of your days. So certainly one will get long life on account of learning Torah. So there's the reward this world and certainly in the next world. B'shilo hakan. There it says explicitly that you should have long life if you send away the mother bird. So why not mention this also? How come the Mishnah does not include shiluach haken if it says explicitly that this is something that you get reward in this world, and obviously you get reward in the next world? So how come you don't include this in the Mishnah? Answer is Tana v'shihir. The Mishnah is not including every example. It's a few select examples of things that you get reward in this world, but it left out. That's not a comprehensive list. And we ask, Tane Tana Elu Devarim Vatamar Tana Vishiyer. Hold on, it even says in the Mishnah, these are the items that you get reward in this and the next world. When you have a heading like that, these are they, then that suggests that it's comprehensive. So it should be comprehensive, and you say that no, it's not comprehensive, it's leaving out a bunch of things. Therefore, Rava does not accept Rav Nachman's answer. So Rava started off with a challenge. On the one hand, we have the Mishnah that has this limited list of things that for which one does get reward, interest reward in this world. But then it doesn't say Shiluach Hakan, so this is the contradiction. He brought proofs for the Pisukim for everything that's in the Mishnah, but Shiluach Haken should also be in there. That's the challenge. Rav Nachman tried to answer that it's not comprehensive. But Rabbi says, sorry, you can't say it's not comprehensive because it has a heading that says these are they. Sounds like this is all of them. So instead, Rava, who asked the question, has his own answer. Amar Rava, Rav Idi Asber Ali. Rav Idi explained it to me. He has a good answer. Imru Sadiq Kitob Kiferi Ma'alelehem Yochelu. V'chiyesh Sadiq Tov, V'yesh Sadiq Sheno Tov. Pasuk in Yeshaya says, say you of the righteous who is good, that they shall eat the fruit of their actions. So it says Sadiq Kitob. Now, simply you could say about a Sadiq that he is good. But we're taking it here as Sadiq Kitob, a Sadiq who is good. He will get the fruit of his actions, meaning the interest. Now, what does this mean? Is there a Sadiq who's good and a Sadiq who's not good? I thought Sadiq is a Sadiq. Ela tov l'shamayim v'labiriyot, zeu Sadiq tov. Tov l'shamayim v'rat labiriyot, zeu Sadiq sheno tov. Rather, if you have someone who is good and is ben adam lamakom, the l'shamayim, and he's also good to other people, that's Sadiq and tov. Whereas if you have a person who does extra credit for ben adam lamakom, but to other people, not so good. So he's called Sadiq, but he's not tov. Only, the pasuk is saying, only if it's a Sadiq and tov, someone who is both good to heaven and beyond, good also to his fellow man, that person will get peri ma'aleh lehem. Ben Ish Chai says about this does not mean, let's say you have a guy who keeps all the ben adam lamakom, but he also cheats and says lashon hara, is mean to people, you're going to call him a Sadiq? No way. If he's not keeping the mitzvot, even a ben adam lachavero, even a basic level, he certainly is not called a Sadiq. We're talking about that he does all the mitzvot, even ben adam lachavero. He keeps everything. He's punctilious. He's a Sadiq. But the point is, he doesn't go above and beyond. He's not going to go on a chesed mission. He's not going to, go out of his way to be extra kind to people. And so he just he focuses on ben adam makom and doesn't focus too much on ben adam lachavero. So we're talking about that. He's a Sadiq, but he's not so great. He's not extra. He doesn't have extra credit regarding chesed. So that's a person. That's a Sadiq tzaddik that is enotov. The next pasuk says, woe to a wicked person, because the work of his hand will be done to him. He'll get punishment according to what he does. What do you mean? An evil person? Is there an evil person who's not evil, and a wicked person who is evil? Rather, someone who is evil to Shamayim and to his fellow man, that's Rasha Ra, double bad. But you can have someone who is not, he eats non-kosher, he does all sins, but he's very good to other people, so he's still called Rasha, but he's not called Ra. How does this answer the question? In the Mishnah, you see that, as follows: someone who does evil, who does bad, gets punished according to their actions. And they doesn't say here so far, they don't get interest. In other words, they're going to get punished. Let's say they did one sin here, they ate cheeseburger, they're going to get certain punishment and olam haba. They don't get interest charged, meaning more punishment in this world. So far, we're going to come back to that, to this issue. But the focus here is on the tzaddik. If he is a tzaddik that is not tov, then that person, he gets credit, but not peri. Only a tzaddik that's tov, if he does both good to makom and good to other people, then that person gets peri ma'alehem, that person gets interest. Therefore, here's the answer. The Mishnah in Masechet Pe'ah, all of the things on the list are ben adam lahavero. He does good to his fellow man. He makes peace between people. He honors his parents. He does gimilut chasadim. Those are all things for which a person would be called tzaddik tov, and that's why they're included in the Mishnah, because for those, one gets reward in this world and the next world. Shiluach haken, however, has not been adam lachavero, right? I mean, you could have birds as pets, but they're still not called your friends, but rather, this is ben adam lamakom, right? Even if you say the reason is sal balechayim, to be compassionate to animals, still that's a ben adam lamakom. You care about Hashem. Hashem created these animals, and so you don't want to harm them, because Hashem said, do not harm them. So therefore, shiluach haken is a mitzvah ben adam lamakom. If someone does that, good, they get reward. That's fine, but it's not, they don't get interest, right? So they get reward only in the next world, and they do not get interest in this world, and that's why it's not included in the Mishnah. So Rabbi had, in the name of Rav Idi, had a very brilliant answer and important insight that item is on the list. Not Talmud Torah is true. Talmud Torah is, it encompasses everything. That's why it says Keneged Kulam, because by learning Torah, one becomes full and complete tzaddik, and you learn Ben Adam Lamakom, you learn Ben Adam Al-Chaved also, become sensitized to how to treat other people, and so it helps a person in all ways, including Ben Adam Lachavero. So what a beautiful Agadah. And this way we can maybe make it consistent with what Rabbi Yaakov said yesterday, that there's no reward for the mitzvot in this world. When he said that, right, even shiluach haken, see, according to this, is reward only in the next world. So really, for all mitzvot, the reward is in the next world. Only for things that one does as tzaddik tov, that you are kind to others, well then, yeah, certainly there is reward in this world. You make peace among people, you honor parents, all those things help for the betterment of families and society, and certainly, right, this is be a much more pleasant world to live in, and that alone is worth the interest of it, in addition to the other benefits and rewards. Okay, hazichut yesh la keren v'yesh la perot, shene'emar imru sadik ki tob. We now elaborate on the theme and the same pesukim that we just brought. So, having merit, if someone does something good, then there's both the principle and also the interest, as the pasuk says, imru sadik ki tob, or here's the pasuk inside, ki peri ma'alehem yochelu, as we just quoted it, because that person does good, has peri ma'alehem, they get not only the principle, but also the the interest. Whereas if someone does evil, then he will get punished for that, the principle of what he transgressed, but he's not going to get more extra penalty as interest, because in that pasuk it says, meaning only Gimul Yadav. He only gets punished for what he did, and not extra for in this world, in addition to the principle, the basic penalty. Hold on, this pasuk in Mishlei seems to contradict it, because it says they shall eat the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own device. Talking about sinners, and yet it says that they're gonna get what's coming to them, including piri, including interest. Right? This would be a difference. Like, if you get a reward, right, you win $1,000, so you're going to get the $1,000, and all the time that while you're waiting, you can get the interest also. Whereas if you get a penalty, a fine, right, you have to pay $100 parking ticket. So that's it. You only have to pay $100. Happens to be if you don't pay for a long time. In New York, you have to pay interest as well. But here in the Torah, no, you only have to pay the original penalty. But here in Mishlei it says you have to pay the penalty and interest on it also. So which is it? Depends on the type of sin. If it's a sin that causes produce, then it's going to have more sin, more punishment. In other words, if someone says Lashon Hara, and so now, okay, you did one act, you said Lashon Hara, but now that rumor spreads and spreads and spread, so this has consequences. So, or if I do a sin, I inspire other people to sin also. So now I did one sin, but then that caused other people to sin. So you see, that has consequences. So then I'm responsible for all of those consequences. So yes, there's the penalty for the original, and there's going to be penalty as interest. But if it's a sin that has no further consequences other than the original sin, right? I ate a cheeseburger in private. That's it. I made a sin, so I get punished just for that. But I would not have to pay interest on that penalty. אדוני איש אל רעהו ויקשב אדוני וישמע ויקטב ספר זיכרון לפניו לירא אדוני לחושבי שמו. Pasuk in Melachi teaches that a thought about doing a mitzvah, one has an intention to do a mitzvah, but then for some reason is unable to, it counts as an action. How do you know? Because the Pasuk says, they that feared Hashem spoke with one another, and Hashem listened and heard, book of remembrance written before him, for them, and that fear Hashem, and that think about his name. So, my ulchoshe shemo, what does that mean, that think about his name? Even if someone thinks about doing a mitzvah, but then something beyond his control comes up and he's not able to do it, where the pasuk considers it as if he did it. They thought about Hashem. They thought about doing a good deed, right? I thought about going to visit someone. I said, I'm going to go visit them, but then, it turns out I couldn't make it. The hospital's closed. They won't let people in, so I wasn't able to visit the person. Okay, but I thought about doing it. I was going to do it beyond my control. I couldn't, so it counts as a mitzvah anyway. But if, on the other hand, God is merciful. If someone thinks about doing an evil deed, but you don't end up going through with it, so God does not count it, right? I thought about robbing a bank, but then a bank was closed, and I didn't do it. It's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. Pasuk in Tehillim says, if I ever had regarded iniquity in my heart, God would not hear. It doesn't mean that God doesn't hear. It means God will ignore it. Okay, it was just in your heart. You just had a plan. You thought about, it'd be a good idea to rob a bank. Maybe I should go. Then you look, they're closed. I can't go rob it. So Hashem forgets about it. So hold on. Pasuk in Yeshaya that says, Hashem says, I'm going to bring evil upon these people for the fruit of their thought. So it sounds like thought does count. Same as we answered before. If it has consequences, then one will be punished for that as well. right? I thought about it, and that thought led to action, then you get punished for the thought also, right? If I make a whole plan to rob a bank and then I rob a bank, so then nothing. If I make a plan to rob a bank and then thinking about it, and then actually go and do it, so then I'm punished for the action as well as for the thought. But if it's a thought that doesn't come to fruition, then God does not consider it like an action. Hold on, what about this pasuk in Yechezkel? So I could take the house of Israel for what they in their heart, for what they did in their heart. I'm going to punish for them for their thoughts. What about that? Even though that pasuk is talking about just thoughts didn't lead to action, but that's talking about idolatry, because the master said that idolatry is so stringent, and anyone who denies idolatry, it's as if he admits and commits to the whole of the Torah. Right? These are complete opposites. Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim points out that many of the mitzvot, the goal of the mitzvot is to get the Bnei Israel away from Avodah Zarah, to polemicize, to get them to stop doing it. And so therefore, if you deny Avodah Zarah, then you have fulfilled the goal of the whole Torah, is to get someone away from that. So the opposite is also true. If someone agrees to that idolatry is true, even if he's just thinking it in his head, I think idolatry, I think that they make a good point, I think it's correct, even just thinking it before you even do it, well, then you missed the whole point of the Torah. So it's like denying the whole Torah. So regarding Avodah Zarah, even without an action, just the thought of it is punishable. Ula amar ked Rav Huna, damar Rav Huna, kivan she'abar adam abera v'shana ba hutra lo sagadatach ela nasit lo keheter. Allah gave a different explanation for why thoughts of sins are counted as sins, according to what Rav Huna said, that once a person violates a sin once and twice, it becomes permitted to him. What do you mean? Actually permitted? You can eat two cheeseburgers, then you're allowed to eat cheeseburgers? No, rather it becomes in his mind as if it is permitted. And the person feels guilty the first time they eat cheese. The second time they also feel guilty. By the third time, they forget that it's even a sin. It's as if it's permitted to them. That is punishable in and of itself. That's what it means. The thought of a sin, the person sinned so many times that they don't even think about that it's a sin anymore. That by itself is punishable. Amar Rabbi Abu Mishum Rabbi Chanina, Noach lo l'adam she'avor avera baseter, v'yitchalel shem shamayim befaresya. Shneimar, v'atem bet Yisrael kol amar Hashem, ish ki lulav dechu abordu, v'achar ve'im enechem shomayim elai, ve'et shem kodshi lo tehalelu. It's better for a person to transgress in secret and not cause a chilul Hashem by doing it in public or a place where somebody will see it and then say, oh, look, that person does such a terrible sin. So in other words, it's bad enough to do a sin, but it's much, much worse to make a chilul Hashem out of it. As the pasuk in Yechezkel says, go serve idols, even though, because you're not going to listen to me anyway, go serve idols, but at least don't make a chilul Hashem. Even if you're going to serve idols, do it in a way, do it in private. Don't make a chilul Hashem out of it. Amar Rabbi Elai Hazaken, Imro Adam she'yisum mitkaber alav yelech lemakom she'en makirin oto v'ba shechorim v'tkaseh shechorim v'yaseh kemo shelibo hafes v'al yitchalel shem shamayim befarhesya. And so for Rabbi Elai said, based on that, if a person, his yetzer hara is overcoming him, he needs to go eat a cheeseburger, he can't control himself. So what should you do? Go to a place where nobody recognizes him, and wear black. The idea is like in mourning, right? Make a dishevel, become disheveled so that you feel, oh, I'm doing something really terrible. You have to mourn over your own loss of your control, that you're doing a sin, and then go eat the cheeseburger, but don't do it in public. That just makes it even worse, right? This, I guess, would be a source that if you know you have your yetzer hara, you have to cut someone off on the line, and you're wearing a kippah. Okay, really, you should not cut people off on while you're driving, right? It's not the right thing to do. But let's say your yetzer hara is so strong, can't help it, I have to cut someone off. Should you take off your kippah so you don't make a chilul Hashem also? I guess, yeah, better to. But don't do it. Better to act correctly in the first place. Okay, ini v'atanya kol shelo chasal kevod kono raui lo shelo ba'ala olam. hold on, we have we have a contradiction, because there's another braita that says anyone who doesn't care about his creator's honor, better that he not come into the world. And how could a person act to show that he doesn't care about God's honor? Mahi Rabbi Omer ze mistakel bekeshet. Rav Yosef Amar ze haober abera beseter. Rabbi says someone who stares at a rainbow. You can look at a rainbow, obviously, because even the beracha on looking at a rainbow. So yeah, look at a rainbow and appreciate. Oh, what a beautiful thing it is. But the rainbow is a manifestation of God's glory, and so staring at it like worshiping it, that's inappropriate. Rabbi Soloveitchik here in the note says that it means rainbow is also a reflection of God's presence in the world. One who stares at rainbow and sees only a band of colors and doesn't see a hint of God's glory in it betrays a lack of belief in the Creator. Okay, that's a nice take on it. But anyway, the point is that this is one application of not caring about God's glory, right? To stare at it as if you can understand God's glory in the rainbow. Anyway, but the more important one for us is what Rav Yosef says. This is someone who does a sin in secret. By doing a sin in secret, he says, I'm afraid of embarrassment from other people. I don't want other people to know, but I don't care. I'm not embarrassed before God. So it's like he doesn't care about God's glory. So now we have a contradiction, because the previous statement said, if you really need to sin, do it in private. Don't make a chilul Hashem. And here it says, someone who does something in private, it's even worse, because he said he's scared from other people, but he's not scared of sinning before his Creator. So how do we answer it? The second one is a case where he can overcome his evil inclination, right? I can control it. I can not eat the cheeseburger, but you know what? I don't care. I'm going to do it in private, and I don't care what Hashem thinks. That person that doesn't care about God's honor. So that's a terrible sin. Whereas the first one is talking about a person who can't overcome his inclination. I can't do it. Right? God knows my heart, and as much as I try, I'm addicted to this thing. There's nothing I could do about it. I have to do it. Okay, if you have to do it, then go to exile. Go wear black. Go where nobody knows you. Hopefully, through doing that, maybe that will stop you. If you have to drive 100 miles to go and do it, right? Maybe on the way you'll say, okay, forget about it. I'm not going to bother. Maybe by showing yourself you're in mourning, by wearing black, maybe that will get you out of the mood. And if not, you say, okay, I can't. I'm overcoming it. So hopefully God will forgive me, but at least I will not make a chilul Hashem. So that's talking about a case where a person is not able to control himself. Tenan hatam, and now Mishnah from Pirkei Avot. En makifin bechilul Hashem, echad shogeg v'echad mezid. There's no credit given when it comes to chilul Hashem. So now we're focusing on the great sin of chilul Hashem, whether you did it intentionally or even by mistake. Doesn't matter. I did it by mistake, but God's name is still desecrated, and so no credit is given. What does that mean? En makifin, that we don't make it like a storekeeper. You go to a store, he'll give you credit, right? You could pay later. But so when it comes to other sins, do a sin today, and Hashem says, you know what, I'm not going to punish you right away. You get a chance to do teshuvah, right? You have a while, but not for chilul Hashem. There, person gets punished immediately. Or another interpretation is that if a person was equally balanced, the merits and demerits, but he has chilul Hashem in the demerits, that weighs extra. Just like we saw yesterday, that like Kibud Avayim, Gimul Chasadim, those weigh extra for good. This weighs extra for bad. Tenor Rabbanan le'olam yir'ad adam asmo kilu chesyo chaya v'chesyo zakai asa mitzvah achat ashrav v'shechriya asmo lechaf zechut abar abera achat oy lo shechriya asmo lechaf choba. A person should always see himself as if he is exactly balanced, half guilty and half innocent, and therefore the next action he does will tip the balance. If he does one mitzvah, he is meritorious and he tips himself over to merit. If he does one sin, woe to him, because he tipped the scales now to guilt. As it says, even for one sin, you can lose much good. How so? Yeah, by that one demerit. Because he's exactly equal, he loses because of one sin, he'll lose out and he will end up being guilty. And now, this doesn't mean that if I'm balanced now, so then if I do one good deed, right, then I can I'm allowed to do one bad deed because I'm up one. No, the point is here that this is how a person should approach it, right? Some people, they do a lot of good things, really. They have more bad things, but the point is that in order to, as a motivator, you should always think of yourself as if you are equally balanced, because that means the next action you do is going to be really, really consequential. It's like, you're studying for a test and you have to pass or fail. So maybe this one question will be the difference between passing and failing. I better go study, right, that subject, so that if there's a question on that, that'll be the difference between passing and failing, right? If you say, I know most of it, I'll be okay, then you're not going to study hard. So the best result is if a person always thinks that this next action will be the key one. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon Omer, העולם נידון אחר רובו, והכי נידון אחר רובו, ועשה מצווה אחת אשריו, שהכריע את עצמו ואת כל העולם כולו לכף זכות. אבל ברעה אחת, אוי לו, שהכריע את עצמו ואת כל העולם לכף חובה, שנאמר, וחוטא אחד וכולי, בשביל חטא יחידי, שעשה זה, איבד ממנו מכל העולם, טובה הרבה. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon even ups the ante and says the whole world is judged according to its majority. And so, therefore, not only a single person, but take all the merits and demerits of everybody in the whole world and imagine always that they're exactly equal. And the person himself also is judged according to the majority. Therefore, if a person does one mitzvah, he is praiseworthy, because he tipped the balance for himself and for the whole world for good. And if he did one sin, woe to him, because he tipped the balance for himself and for the whole world for bad. As the same pasuk says, one sin can cause a lot of damage. Even because of one sin, he destroys himself and the whole world as well. So no pressure, right? Okay, you can eat that non-kosher item, you can say that lashon hara, but just know you're going to destroy yourself and the whole world. You know what? If you think that way, right, then you'll stop doing it. The point is that every single one of our actions is meaningful, is consequential, both for bad, but also for good. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai Omer, אפילו צדיק אמור כל ימיו, ומרד באחרונה איבד את הראשון, שנאמר, צדקת הצדיק לא תסילנו ביום פשעו. Even if a person is a complete tzaddik all his days, but at the end of his life, he says, he rebels, and then he loses out on the merit of all the mitzvot that he did before. And it says, the righteousness of the righteous will not help him, will not save him on the day that he transgresses. Why won't it help him? Because he lost out on all of them, because now he rebelled. But the opposite is also true. Person is completely wicked as all of his days, but it does teshuvah at the end. You never know when your end is going to be, so you always want to do it the day before you die, and you never know when that's going to be. So you should always do teshuvah. Don't count on this, right, to wait until the end. But the point is that if a person is, for some reason, wicked his whole life, but then he makes teshuvah, so then we don't remind him of all of his wickedness, right? Teshuvah can completely erase the evil that he did before. It says the wickedness of the wicked, he will not stumble over it on the day that he turns from his wickedness. Now we ask about the first case. He did good his whole life. Okay, now he did evil at the end. So why not at least count him as half-half? Why you want to erase everything they did all the good things they did before? So count the good things and count the bad things. No, we're only talking about a case where he regrets what he did before. See, it's not just if he did good his whole life and then he did something bad and he rebelled at the end of his life. Fine, then we'll count all those good things and maybe he'll still be all told a good person. But if he says, you know what, all those good things I did, it was for nothing. All those times I went to Bet Knesset and I prayed. All those times that I was careful on Shabbat, I did it for nothing, right? I shouldn't have done it. I regret doing all those good. You regret all the good things that you did? Okay, fine. Then you'll lose out on all of them, and then that person will be judged for the rebelliousness at the end. That brings us to the next and final Mishnah of the Perek. Kol sheyeshno b'mikra b'mishnah u'bederech eres lo b'mhera hu chotesh nemar ve'achot ha'meshulash lo b'mhera yenatek. Anyone who studies Tanakh and Mishnah, representing the oral law, and also his actions are good. Derech eres can mean two things. Rambam says it means good behavior towards other, being nice, being polite, being kind and generous, and so on. Or it can mean being part of the workforce, being a productive citizen. in society. So either both of those meanings. If someone has all those things, or written law, oral law, and good behavior, then he will not come to sin easily. As the pasuk says in Kohelet, the threefold cord is not quickly broken. That's a strong cord if it's three ply. And therefore also the study and the action support each other. Whereas someone who has none of these things, he doesn't know Tanakh, he doesn't know oral law, and his behavior is not acceptable. He doesn't have good behavior. He's not part of the workforce. He doesn't act well to others in society. That person is not part of society at all. He has nothing to show for himself. He is not a productive member of the community. Amar Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Sadok. למה צדיקים נמשלים בעולם הזה? לאילן שכולו עומד במקום טהרה, ונופו נוטה למקום טומאה. נקסס נופו, כולו עומד במקום טהרה, ככה הקדוש ברוך הוא בייסורים על צדיקים בעולם הזה, כדי שירסו העולם הבא שנאמר, והיה ראשיתך מסער ואחריתך ישקה מאוד. What are tzaddikim like in this world? They're likened to a tree that is all in a pure place, but some of its branches are overgrown and on top go into an impure place. So it's a little bit here, a little bit there. But as long as you cut off those branches that are in the impure place, then it will be totally pure. So too, God brings suffering. That's upon tzaddikim in this world. That's the cutting of the branches that are in an impure place. This world is impure, so that they will be totally pure when they come to Olam Haba. As it says, your beginning was in pain, but your end shall greatly increase. In other words, have a little sacrifice here, pain here in this world to atone for sin, so that one will be totally pure in the next world. And the opposite for the Shaim, what are they likened to? In this world, to a tree that is all in the place of Tum'ah, but there are some branches that overhang into a place of Tahara. So if you cut off those branches, then it's all in the place of Tum'ah. כך הקדוש ברוך הוא משפיע עליהן טובה לשם בעולם הזה כדי לתורדן ולשן למדרגה התחתונה שנאמר יש דרך ישר לפני איש ואחריתה דרכי מוות. So too, God gives good reward to Rishaim in this world. That's the cutting off of the trees in the pure place. So that he can bring them down to the lowest levels of Gehinam. As the pasuk says, there is the way that seems right. It seems like, oh, this is good, but its end are ways of death, right? And don't be fooled by Sadiq v'Tobla, right? There is a reason for that. And so that's a solution to the theodicy. כבר היה רבי טרפון זקנים מסובין בעליית בית ניזה בלוד. נשאלה שאלה זו בפניהם. תלמוד גדול או מעשה גדול? One time Rabbi Tarfon and the other elders were reclining, having a meal together in the upper story of the house of Nitzeh in Lod. Probably a rich person that had a nice house. He invited all the Chachamim to come and learn Torah there. And the following question was put forth. This is kind of like a Roman symposium. Also, there was someone to bring up a philosophical question, and everybody have to answer it. So this is kind of modeled after that, the Misubin and all that, except instead of talking about philosophy, of course, they're rabbis, so they talk about Torah. What's better, study or action, right? It's better to sit and study Torah all day, or to go and act, go do good deeds, go do misvot. Now, Rabbi Tarfon says action, right? Go and help someone. Do something productive. Rabbi Akiva says, no, study is the best. Right? You have to know what's right, what's wrong. You have to know Torah. As after the whole discussion, they all agreed that study is greater. But why is study greater? Because it leads to action. So that if action without study will be short-lived. Oh, we're all fired up now. We're going to do some action. Okay, let's go and solve this cause. And so for a few days, everybody does a lot of action, and then like it peters out. Does it last? Going to last a generation? Is it going to last 100 generations? not without the study that comes that comes behind it. The study is the energy that keeps it going. Although study by itself, that is also lacking. But study, if it leads to action, so that's the best combination. You have to do study. Eventually, when you study enough, you're gonna say, "Oh, look, this is a correct thing to do. I never thought of it that way." And then most people don't like to live with cognitive dissonance, that they study one thing and then do something else, right? So the action will catch up to the study. Tanya, Rabbi Yosef Omer, Gadol Tamud שקדם לחלה 40 שנה לתרומות ומעשרות 54 לשמיטים 61 וליובלות 103. This is also all following up on Talmud Torah Keneged Kolam. What's so great about Talmud Torah? Right, so here's another way. Greater is Talmud Torah because the commandment of the Torah was given to Bnei Israel soon after they left Mitzrayim. And the first year after they left. And so that came first, and other mitzvot came later. Hala, only after 40 years, only once they entered the land, then they had to separate hala. Trumot Masot 54. And Trumot Masot only applied, not when they first entered the land, but only after the land was conquered and settled. And so that took 14 more years after they entered the land. So that's 40 plus 14, that's 54. Lishmitin 61. To do the first Shemitah, they only started counting the Shemitah once they settled the land. So that would be the 54. Then they started counting Shemitah. So you have to add 6 to that. And so you get 61. Assuming that they started counting after that. The 54th year is now they're settled. So now the 55th year is year 1, and so on. And so you get to 61. Le'ovlot me'ah v'shalosh. First Yovel was in the 103rd year. Again, you start at 54, and then you start counting 1 the year after that. And so add 50 to that, you'll get 103. Hold on, me'ah v'shalosh, is that really 103? Me'ah v'abah havyan, it would be 104, right? 54, and then you start counting the next year as 1, and add 50, you're going to get to 104, not 103. Kasabar Yovel metechilatohu meshamet. No, we're assuming that Yovel releases slaves and fields. All the laws of the Yovel apply at the beginning of the 50th year, so that's why it's 103rd and not the 104th. So all that was to say that Talmud Torah was given before all of these other important commandments. And just like the learning of Torah leads to and comes before doing, kach dino kodem lemaaseh, so too a person is judged at the end of one's life regarding Talmud Torah before they are judged regarding actions. Kedrav Hamnuna Hamnuna entichilat dino shel adam ela al divrei Torah shneimar poter mayim reshit madon. Hamnuna teaches that the first thing that one is asked at the final judgment is, did you study Torah? Did you waste time with Bitul Torah? As the Pasuk says, the beginning of judgment, the Shit Madon, is letting out water. Water is compared to Torah. Drinking water, right, is good. So letting out, wasting water means wasting time and not learning Torah. And just like a person is judged regarding learning before action, so too reward for studying Torah comes before reward for other mitzvot. Hashem will give them the land of other nations and the labor of other people. They will inherit because they observed the laws, and that was a reference to the study of Torah. Now back to the Mishnah, if someone does not have these things, in addition, we said he's not part of society. Rabbi Yochanan added, he also can't be a good witness. Witness has to be a productive member of society, that he cares about things, and so that's why he'll be a trustworthy witness. Someone's a low life, like a gambler. One of the reasons why a gambler is no good, not only because he's stealing, but because he wastes his time away. He's not productive. He doesn't have a job. And so this person has no derech eretz, no job, no study, no learning, right? What is a person good for? He's not going to be careful to be an honest person. So therefore, cannot be a witness. Another Braita says someone who eats in the marketplace is like a dog. Okay, there was One writer, Leon Cass, famous guy, he said anyone who eats in public is a disgrace. So he got a lot of criticism for saying that. Like, what, you can't even have an ice cream cone on the boardwalk, right? What will be the problem? But it turns out he realized after that this is actually a Talmudic statement that he was saying. No, the point is here, like, you go and eat a sandwich in the middle of the street while you're walking. This is not a respectful thing to do. You should have some self-respect, self-dignity, and you sit down to a meal, eat it properly, and not like just stuffing your face while you're walking, making a mess. It's disgusting. Okay, so that's it's like a dog, just eats anywhere, anything. Anyway, the point of bringing this was actually for the second part, that a person who eats in public like that is not a proper member of society, and therefore is also disqualified from being a witness. Amar Rabbi Idi Bar Abin halacha ki yesh omrim. It says halacha is in fact like yesh omrim, someone who does not have self-respect to sit down with dignity, but acts like in an animalistic way, also cannot be a witness. Darash bar kapara ragzan lo alta biyado ela ragzanuta. Someone who gets angry a lot, what does he have to show for it at the end of the day? Just the noise and bluster of his anger. There's no benefit comes from anger. Nobody's inspired by it. Nobody does anything better because of it, right? It's not a good way. Even if you're angry for a good cause, for a good reason. So you give constructive criticism, you help a person, right? Getting angry does not help anybody. To a good person is given the fruit of his actions to taste. In other words, even though the ultimate reward is spiritual reward in the next world, nevertheless, a good person that does good things, you already see the good things happening in one's own life. And someone who has no study, not in or the written law, not in the oral law, and he does not have good behavior, so one should vow not to derive benefit from him. In other words, don't associate with that person, because otherwise you'll be affected by that person, and some of his laziness and bad behavior will rub off on you. So therefore, keep far from that person. As the pasuk says in the first Mizmor, in the seat of the scornful, do not sit. This person, he doesn't study Torah, he doesn't do good deeds, he doesn't work, he's not productive at all. So this is called Moshav Letzim. He just sits around and makes fun of everything else. Stay away from that person, and instead do the opposite and go and involve oneself with study of Torah, and that will lead to good deeds as well. And then a person will reap the benefit of that both in this world and in the next. Hadran Allah Isha Niknet Chazakim Uberuchim.